start? I don't know if you said Pryce was going to get surgery this week. I guess what's the latest on that?
Yeah, Pryce had a doctor's appointment this morning, and it confirmed what I think we already knew, is that he's going to have surgery to repair his sports hernia, and he will have that surgery in the next couple days. And as far as an exact timeline, we don't know exactly what it is until they go in there and see the severity of the hernia. So, the good thing is he should be back once we start our summer workouts, when we get rolling again with our guys in June.
How much just clarity have you gotten over the past 2 weeks of returners, guys leaving, that sort of thing?
Yeah, I mean, obviously we've had a lot of conversations with that, Wilson, and we feel good. We feel really good about the core group of guys that we will have back next year, and, those conversations are ongoing, exactly what it's going to look like, but we feel good about the initial talks that we've had. That's the biggest thing, is retention. When you look at our team from last year, a lot of those guys that played significant roles were guys that were in our program, and guys that knew the culture, the standard, and everybody that came in, really lived up to that. And a lot of that was because of the returners, and they let them know what was expected. So very important that we get those guys back, and we feel really good that we're going to have a good group of core returners that will be back in a Husker uniform next year.
The portal opens tomorrow. I guess what's the
I can't wait.
Yeah, it's your favorite time of year.
Favorite time of year.
What's the plan? I mean, I know it's still a dead period until the
it's weird. The portal, yes, it opens up tomorrow. There's going to be a lot of names in there, and you've already seen a lot of players that are planning on going into the portal. So you just do as much behind the scenes work within the rules that you can, and then you're ready when these names pop. And try to be one of the first to get involved if you feel that they fit what you're trying to do. And we feel good about some of the names that we're after, and those Zoom calls will start pretty much right away. You can do the Zoom calls, you can get on the phone, but you can't do any visits until the 10th, whether they come to campus or we go out on the road and visit them. I've got a staff meeting this afternoon, and we'll just try to put in place as much as we can right now and be prepared once these names pop and once they go into the portal.
You talked a little bit about after the season, we saw the locker room video. I mean, the guys taking some time to reflect on what they did. I mean, have you had conversations with them, and has the loss kind of worn off, and have they kind of realized how much they accomplished this season?
I don't know if the loss will ever wear off completely. It's, but when you do look back at it, there's a lot to be proud of. And I've really tried to leave the guys alone. I've seen them over at training table. I was in Indianapolis for 24 hours and have had messages and conversations with a lot of the guys, and we'll have a team meeting on Thursday just to talk about the rest of the semester. But yes, when you talk to the guys, I think they are really proud of what they accomplished, and I talked a lot about being able to share this journey with as good a fan base as there is in the country. And our guys loved it. They loved the support that they got. A lot of firsts in the program. I know we've talked a lot about that, but the biggest ones were getting that tournament win and building off that. And now the next step is continue to be here. And I know I talked about this. We can't wait 5, 6, 7 years for this to happen again. And I feel really good about where we're at going into the off season, and I'm confident that we're going to add some more very important pieces so we can be in the same situation where we're competing for a Big Ten championship. And we led a game for 38 minutes to get to the Elite Eight. Unfortunately, didn't close it out. So there's a lot to build on, and our guys absolutely 100% should be very proud of what they've accomplished, and I know they are. And talking to them, when you look back on it, as disappointing as that last game was, a lot to be proud of over the course of the year.
What are you?
Indy, just what was that experience like for you, and how did you find out that you were going to be pitching?
Yeah, I got word a couple days before that the award was going to happen. I enjoyed the time in Indy. It was great to catch up with some former coaches that we either coached against in the league that are no longer there. Being out there with my family. My daughter drove in from Chicago. She's engaged to somebody that's actually from Indiana, from Batesville, about an hour from Indianapolis. So we had breakfast the next morning with Paige's future mother-in-law and sister-in-law, and it was great. It was fun to catch up with them. I had met her one time. She was at the Purdue game, but this is the first time to spend time, and it's really excited for Paige and the family she's about to join. And I know this. I'm rambling here, and this is probably boring to everybody. But yeah, it was fun to see them and Sam being there and Charlie being there. The only one that wasn't was Jack. I think they were in Golden State playing a road game against the Warriors. So yeah, it was special. And listen, I know I talked a lot about those awards aren't possible unless you surround yourself with the right people. And so thankful for my staff. Thankful for the players. They were all about the right things this year. I know I've talked about that at length. But it was a special day to be up there in front of, I think, 2 media outlets that covered the thing. But it was pretty cool to be there. And again, a lot of it was catching up with people that mean a lot to me, that have been great to me since I've been in this profession.
Roster retention, obviously important, but what about staff retention? Has anything changed?
Yeah, nothing has changed. We'll see how things transpire, but yeah, I'm very thankful for the staff that we have, and everybody's on the same page. And listen, we talk a lot about role acceptance with your players. It's very similar with your staff, and you give out roles. And our guys have done a great job of sticking with it. And I know I talked a lot about just how we kind of changed things up this year with more of an offensive and a defensive room. I got that from San Antonio. That's how the Spurs have done it this year, and they had a lot of success with it. And I really like the way that looked, and certainly we'll continue on with it. So we'll see how things go here the rest of the month. There's a lot of movement right now all over the country. And we'll see what happens, but I'm thankful that we'll have the majority of our staff back.
And
What?
speaking about staff, Adam Howard.
You're late.
Sorry.
Yeah.
Sorry, listen. Adam Howard got hired at Troy.
Yeah.
Head coach. Just how excited.
Yeah, I'm really excited for Adam. I think he's ready for this jump, and he's been at Troy. He was at Troy as an assistant. He's been in that league on several different staffs, and he knows what it takes to compete at a high level. Obviously he's taken over for a great coach at Troy, somebody that's won 20 straight games for 5 consecutive seasons, and the expectations are high. But I know Adam's ready for it. He's going to build a really good staff, and I'm confident that he'll do a great job there. So anything I can do to help. I've talked to Adam multiple times since he got the job, and we're certainly wishing him all the best.
What qualities, what kinds of guys are you looking for in the portal?
Yeah, well, I don't think it's any secret on what we lose and, what we're going to need to replace. We're going to need some help in the backcourt with losing Sam and losing Jamarcus, and then with what you lose with Rink in the front court with a skilled big that did so many things for us. You could play through him. He was the anchor of our defense, a really good pick and roll defender, and really helped us elevate our defense this year, all 3 of those guys. So we're going to have to replace that. Both ends, if you can get two-way players in those spots, it's very important. But when you look at our needs, that's the biggest thing, especially with what we've got returning.
How much do you look for specific archetypes or skill sets of players versus relying on your coaching principles to help you, fit those guys into whatever role you need?
Yeah, a lot of it is, first of all, they have to fit the culture. They have to fit the group, with the group of guys that we're going to have coming back, and that's been very important. We've had really good players, obviously, but they've also been a group of guys that have lived up to the daily standard that we set for our players. So that's number one. You do a lot of background work to see if they're the right type of kid to bring in here so we can continue to have a fan base that can be proud of what they're seeing out there on the floor. And then they have to fit. They have to fit the way that we want to play. We've always tweaked based on the roster. There's some that really try to fit them into the exact system, but we've always adjusted based on the skill set of our players. Obviously a lot of this is going to revolve around Pryce and Braden and, getting Connor, back and, several of the other players, Kale and, but it's important to get a group that fits with those guys, BK, all those guys. And, but yes, we feel good about the group, and putting the right players in with the guys that we have coming back is very important.
How much easier is that sell with 3 straight postseasons with 3 non-identical?
It doesn't matter. It doesn't matter. Do you have this? So listen, some of it does, obviously, and we've got good relationships with different agents that have players in there, and maybe they're not looking for top dollar. Maybe they're looking for the best opportunity and the best fit. And, you have those conversations. Listen, we're not going to be able to compete with a lot of the schools just because we don't have the resources. But, at the same time, if you look at this in a long-term approach, and that's what we sell, their kid has to be in the right system in order to maximize their long-term potential and, maximize their earning potential on top of that. So, yes, we have had those, conversations, and it did help. I mean, I do think it was an exciting style of play. It is a defense, that is a team-oriented protecting of players. So that is attractive. It's attractive to a lot of players, and hopefully we'll be involved in some of those conversations.
Similar question. I mean, when you are looking for those guys, how do you kind of handle the balancing act of guys that fit culturally, guys that have the skill, the money aspect? I mean, just what's your process?
Yeah, I mean, it's all part of it. It's one big old pie, and there's all those are pieces of the pie that you talked about. And ideally, yes, you get the player that fits all those categories, and those are the ones that we're identifying right now, and then we'll be ready to pounce on when they do end up going into the portal. And you just got to do the best that the best job you can do with what you have, and we're prepared to do that. We're thankful we're in a much better position this year than we were a year ago going into this time of year, and we're going to be ready to maximize that and do the best job we can.
When you speak of the portal, last week the president signed the executive order, and it may be changing coming up. Have you, of a program, talked about that and the implications of it?
And until we hear what exactly that means and what rules are in place, and we're in constant communication with our compliance office. I think the rule, if I'm not mistaken, goes into place in August, if I'm not mistaken. So yeah, I mean, we'll see how things. There's going to be a lot of developments and a lot's going to transpire. So we'll be ready. Whatever the rules are, we'll be ready.
Obviously, skilled bigs, guys like Rink that can do a lot, is important to your style and how you want to play. Point guards, or I guess initiators of offense, is been a little different for you through your years and different things. Is there a particular one that you like more, or style?
Well, I think one thing when you look at this year, we basically did what we or accomplished what we did without a pure point guard on the roster, and I think that's pretty impressive when you look at it. To not have a guy, Jamarcus never really played point guard until he got here, and he was more off the ball until we had some injuries. That first year, and then he went to Rhode Island where he played more of the lead facilitator, and then that was his role on this team, but he never played point guard in high school. Sam has played off the ball his whole career. Kale, he's the utility guy, played some point in high school, but, that's not maybe his natural position. So, certainly he can play there, and he did a great job for us this year. So, listen, I've had different guys going all the way back to my first year. Deontay Garrett was a pure point guard, and he led the Big 12 in assists. We've had guys here that have led the Big 10 in assists, but I've also had big guys that have led our team in assists. Maybe if we don't have that pure point guard, I've always been, my biggest priority is to go out and get the most talent if they fit what you're trying to do, and then you figure it out from there. So if that's a skilled big that can initiate the offense, maybe you don't have to have as much of a pure point. If you don't have a Rink or a Derek Walker or a George Niang or a Royce White, maybe you have to have more of a pure point guard. So, we do need help in that area. There's no doubt about it, and we're going to identify, those players that we feel fit from that standpoint. But again, if you can get the point forward or the hybrid type big, that maybe that pure point isn't quite as important.
Where's Connor at from a health standpoint?
Yeah, he's probably another 2 to 3 weeks from being cleared. He's doing some straight line running right now. He's doing some treadmill running, but he has not done anything as far as going off the move and that type of thing. He's starting to shoot a little bit, but at the same time, we don't want to stress the ankle too much. We've got some time, and we're certainly not going to push it and get ahead of where we are. But he's in a good place.
What about Oogie? Same, I guess, question.
Yeah, still battling. He's going through the rehab process. He's in an intensive core program right now. And his next step, we're following it to the letter of getting back on the floor. He's probably still a month away from doing that. So we'll continue to monitor and see how he does.
He's planning on coming back, right?
I mean, we'll see how it is with him, and a lot of it's going to depend on his health.
Right.
With a guy like Colin coming in, just what's the connection maybe with Pryce and that Iowa connection, and just how excited are you to have a player like that, and just what can you say? I know it's a few months away.
Sure, yeah. Colin fits exactly the type of player that we want in our program. With first of all, the type of kid he is, high character. and can really shoot the ball and put the ball in the basket, put it on the floor, and create for himself. He's athletic. And the thing that really impressed us when we went and watched him at the Top 100 camp, the NBA Top 100 camp, I mean, he really guarded. So he's a very well-rounded two-way player, and certainly will have his opportunity to compete for rotation spot. And then Jacob Lanier as well, and certainly he can help us initiate offense. He had an incredible season, won a state championship, was a player of the year, and he's going to come in here and compete as well. So I'm really excited about our freshmen. And again, the way that we've always done it, you throw the ball out, and the guys that show that they belong in the court, those are the guys that are in your rotation, and that's how we've always done it. All right, thank you guys. See you next year.